Johannesburg's power utility City Power has officially launched and switched on its recommissioned open gas turbine in Fordsburg. The former John Ware substation, which is renamed after the late City of Johannesburg Executive Mayor Mpho Moerane, will generate 50 megawatts of electricity into the grid. To discuss this further is Thami Mathiso. He's City Power New Business Group Executive. Good evening and thank you very much for your time, Mr. Mathiso. So yesterday you officially switched on your recommissioned open gas turbine. Just talk to us about this, more importantly your role and that of the provincial government as the implementing agent of the Gauteng Energy Response Plan.
Good evening to you and good evening to your listeners and your viewers. Most definitely, I think the role of City Power here, City Power went through a process of going out on an energy indaba and came out of the energy indaba with a 10-point plan, which was a mitigating strategy on how we were going to address the load shedding in the city. But I think the challenges that we had at the time were issues of funding. We then joined the Gauteng province in their energy indaba, which was held in Midrand. We presented our plans with them, and they were willing to fund the plans, especially that if they are expanded to the whole of Gauteng. So our role has been to come up with those plans, and Gauteng's role has to assist us with the funding. And then the identification of the John Ware plant, that specific one, to recommission it. How did that come about? Yeah, so we had done feasibility studies. City Power currently had about 4 open cycle gas turbines. One was badly vandalized. John Ware was actually one that we could work on based on the feasibility studies. It has been there from 1977. It was decommissioned around the 80s and recommissioned in 2010 as part of the World Cup preparation. And we then thought that because the refurbishment of those diesel engines or the open cycle gas turbines were still done in 2010, it was a better one to work on. And then cost-wise, where did it place you? No, in terms of cost, we were funded by the province as part of the Gauteng emergency energy crisis funding, which at least at the time, they combined all their projects, including this one at around 1.2 billion. So this is part of the many projects that the province had actually funded. Now, many would say what you've done here speaks to the importance of collaboration and partnership between different levels of government to address challenges and drive progress. But I'd like to know, were there any difficulties along the way with aligning your efforts and resources? Because the common criticism of different spheres of government is that they like to operate in silos and remind each other that you are local government, we're provincial. So were there any challenges, particularly at the beginning of this collaboration? Yeah, most definitely. Like any project, there are challenges, but I think ours was quite minimized by the fact that we signed a memorandum of understanding with COGTA, who understands the business of local government. And I think because COGTA was a bridge between us and the Gauteng province, it became easier for us to implement and to resolve some of the challenges that were there. I think we are also grateful for our staff members who have been there. It was a mix of quite old staff members who have been there from the 80s and the new ones who have come through now, having qualified as engineers. So it was quite an exciting project that we've seen, combining the government and combining also the age mix in the organization. And the project doesn't end there. We understand that next month you bring in another 50 megawatts and then more beyond that point. Talk to us about this. Yeah, we have started work also on a Durban Street open cycle gas turbine, which is further down east of Johannesburg. We are working on that. It's equally, so we call them these two plants twins because they are identical. Both the one in Fordsburg and the one in Durban Street, they've got aircraft engines. Our engineers say they are engines that were used on a Concorde aircraft. So it's quite a good technology that we are putting there. So working on that in anticipation that by the end of the month of May, we should be able to also bring into additional capacity. And you're not stopping there with just the 100 megawatts. You plan to continue. Just talk us through that program beyond this 50 that you want to secure now next month. I think in January, we tabled a process with the Council of Johannesburg, which is MIPPA. It's a MIPA. It's actually a request for different spheres of governments and departments for City Power to have to be able to bring into IPPs and contract for 20 years. Because the investments that IPPs made cannot be recovered in a shorter period. So we started with that. We are working with the province in some of the projects that they are working on. Yesterday, they were signing some of the guys who in the west of Gauteng, which is Merafong, where they are working on putting up a solar farm, which is going to generate about 800 megawatts. So we are working with them on that and to see how we can also assist some of the municipalities with the experience and the capacity that we are bringing as City Power.
Now, just in closing, I don't know if you can perhaps give us a comment. There have been protests today at Pennyville in Soweto related to power outages. We understand that City Power did go there and has possibly restored power. What do you know about that particular situation? Is it in fact the case that power has been restored?
It is my understanding that power has been restored in Pennyville. There was an outage, I think, that resulted from a trip in one of our medium voltage cables that was coming through from the substation. This required our technicians to actually walk the line and see exactly where the line was damaged. And I think that took a longer process. But I can assure you, based on the understanding that I was given by technicians, that I think yesterday, just before midnight, the power was restored in both Pennyville and Utrecht.
But it seems some citizens are quite concerned that the speed with which you responded to this matter is indicative that it takes citizens protesting, because they took to the streets in the early hours of this morning, and then just by midday, City Power was there.
Yeah, so I think I can assure you that we can track our communications with the community, the councillors, and everyone on the ground, that we have been responsive on some of the matters. We deploy our colleagues on site as quick as we can, but some of the technical breakdowns that take place takes a bit of time, and I think we are requesting even communities to be understanding. So if it was an isolated case where 2 or 3 houses were affected by the outages, obviously the response or the resolution would have been much more quicker. But this one was a medium voltage, which is actually affected from the substation. So the colleagues had to drive from the substation to track the fault. And after that, they were able to restore the power.
All right. Mr. Mathiso, thank you very much for your time this evening. That's Thami Mathiso. He's City Power New Business Group Executive.